Okay, Barry Hutchison.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mueller, for coming before our committee. I'm happy to say that last year we thought it would be the last time that you appeared before our committee, and I was very pleased that the President offered and you accepted an extension of your term, because I think what has happened at the FBI during your term is exponential. I think the changes that have taken place and the responsibilities that you've had have been more transformational than probably any time since the beginning of the FBI. I do want to start my remarks just very briefly by recognizing also the chairwoman of this committee, who will on Saturday become the longest-serving woman to serve in Congress in the history of the United States Congress. And we're going to make a big deal of that because we're really proud of this little pint-sized mighty mite who has outlasted them all. So, Mr. FBI Director, let me just state a couple of points. I think that Senator Mikulski has really outlined the big picture. There are a couple of areas of interest that I have and concern. Certainly, I think the southwest border has to be as much of a national security issue as any place that we have. And yet, this request cuts the southwest border funding. I would question the priority of the administration in increasing the financial fraud enforcement and decreasing border security. So I'm going to say that I'll be looking carefully at that and hoping to restore at least the $5 million that was included to make it look like it was even funding. But that was just required to sustain the positions that had been added in the FY10 Border Supplemental Appropriations Bill. So I'm hoping that we can add more where you think you need it the most, because that would be 13 Border Corruption Task Force members located in field offices across the border, as I understand it. And these are kind of the backbone of the FBI Southwest Border Mission that provide intelligence and coordinate with the Southwest Intelligence Group, EPIC, and the National Border Task Force. So I'm going to be looking at that very carefully. I'm also concerned and going to ask you about the $162 million rescission. And what exactly that is going to impact. If it is as it appears that it would be the processing for fingerprinting and DNA on IEDs, that's an area where I think we could really link it to terrorists, and I wouldn't want to cut that unless you have other plans for using money to assure that that is able to be done. So, and then the other area is cutting the contractors of counterintelligence programs, which would be the Informant Validation, Terrorist Screening Center, and Foreign Terrorist Tracking Task Force. I will ask your opinion of those. And then the other area that I will ask you about is the FBI agents that were involved in the prosecution of Ted Stevens. We had a disturbing hearing with Mr. Holder last week in which we talked about the Department of Justice employees who apparently are still prosecuting at the Department of Justice even after the report was released and the Attorney General himself dismissed the case against Senator Stevens because of misconduct on the part of the prosecutors. So I will want to know if there are people still at the FBI. I think there were just 2 agents that were accused of being involved in it. So I'd like to know your opinion of that as well. So I thank you for all that you're doing in the other areas that Senator Mikulski mentioned, but especially knowing the role of the FBI now in international intelligence and law enforcement. And so that expansion has been on your watch, and I appreciate that you have been able to handle it and work with the intelligence agencies so well. Thank you.
Director Mueller, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.